Hey guys, today's story is about... screw it, I'm gonna go get some cigs, I'll be back. Because this is an ongoing campaign, I'm going to try to keep things as vague as I can when it comes to people's identities. It's hard to say whether this person is a problem player, or if we just have different playing styles. So, I'll let you be the judge of that. The player in question, who I'll call David, plays D&D in a way that is rather confusing to me. I've been in a few campaigns with him, and every single time, he creates characters that are distant from the party. Now, I know this is a typical lone wolf playstyle where the person eventually warms up to the others in the party, but while that is what typically ends up happening, it feels as if David only travels with us for plot convenience. The best way I can explain it is to give a few details. David's character doesn't appear to trust or like our characters, but they usually come along anyways, because we have the same goal in mind. But after the first interaction, he always starts going off on his own. If our party is investigating the inside of a house, David will make it known that his character isn't interested and is bored. And when the DM confirms that they're just going to stand there, David will then go outside of the house to explore the shed, or fencing, for unspecified reasons. If we go shopping, David is never interested in it, and when he is, it's never where the group wants to go. And instead of telling us that's where they want to go, they'll just leave without saying a word. It could have been a shop that we all plan to visit on our to-do list, but David will skip ahead of everything else that we've agreed to as a group, and just go on their own. One time, when we were leaving a town and doing some last-minute preparations, David described how his character, who didn't see anything worth doing, separated from us and went and sat underneath a tree to relax and take a nap. When the DM asked what he was doing, David said that someone in the group would come and find him eventually. One of the players pointed out that he didn't tell us where he was going and that none of us were going to waste our time searching the town for him, when we all agreed to meet up at a specific location and time. Sometimes, David would come and find us. Other times, he would shrug it off and just keep waiting on us to find him. For the most part, during roleplay, if he was around, David would stay silent unless he was saying something out of character to insult us or our plans, but never did anything in character to give their opinion or help in any way. He made it clear that he was only going along with us because that's what the majority agreed upon. When we asked his opinion, he would normally blow it off saying that he really couldn't think of what to say right now, or if we were planning, that he didn't have any ideas of his own. This isn't to say that David doesn't roleplay. He does. But whenever he does, he always seems a little bit exasperated with our characters. Like whatever we're doing or talking about is pointless. And it's not a lack of interest. He makes detailed characters and seems excited to play D&D in our group chats. But it's like when we start playing, all that enthusiasm turns into pessimism, and the only time he really lets his character's personality shine is during one-on-one role-playing with a DM in moments his character has separated from us. But any group efforts are met with silence, demeaning comments, and sarcasm. There are times where he wanders off and it seems like he's trying to get another character to follow him because he blatantly asks if anyone is going to try to follow him to see where he's going, or will interrupt us to ask if anyone is going to check up on him. So it's hard to tell if he wants to do things on his own, or if he wants people to join him. If it wasn't for him constantly talking about new character ideas, his excitement for the next session, and his love of telling everyone who might have missed a session what happened, I would assume that he was in the game for no real reason. He genuinely seems to love D&D. And before anyone wants to throw the DM on a cross and light on fire, no. Our DM hasn't been silent about this. They've been asked many times to communicate more with a group when they wander off on their own, and the DM has tried to encourage them to roleplay more during moments where we're making plans that they keep belittling out of character, to which he has also been told is not respectful of his party members. At one point, when he did his little thing where he'd wander off right before we're supposed to leave an area and said that he would be waiting for someone to come get him, the DM flat out told him no. This was mostly because our characters were on a time limit, and he had went so far away from us that it would have taken us an in-game hour to bring him back. assuming that our characters managed to find him right away, since our ranger would have had to have tracked him down, because again, he didn't tell anyone where he was going. Our DM explained that if his character waited around for us to find him, it was going to hinder his party, and no one was going to be happy with this. David relented, and eventually came to us. Reluctantly, I might add. But sometimes, this attitude could also drift into combat. Sometimes David would refuse to fight the first couple of rounds because the situation didn't involve him. This could be because we were facing a big bad from someone's backstory, or one of the people in the party went and angered a goblin that now wanted to impale them on a stick. This happened often, because David would wander away from the party and would either keep doing whatever he went off to do on his own terms, or would stay out of initiative completely. This could sometimes throw the balance of the game off when it was planned encounters by the DM. The only time we could get him to help us is if we asked both in and out of character, which would eat up a lot of time and would bog the game down, as he would argue that his character had no motive in the battle. And a lot of times in the middle of battle, he would add in on how the situations we were in was because, insert character here, did a dumb, and that he couldn't believe our characters were jumping into trouble to save someone who had made a poor choice. The DM, the other players, and myself couldn't seem to figure David out. He hadn't been kicked from our game because, in our eyes, none of these were kickable offenses, and seemed like minor issues that could be fixed. But they were issues that David might acknowledge one session and change his character's actions, but only for that session, because the next he would be back to separating himself, or not helping during combat. There wasn't any hostility behind it, not even when he was insulting our characters. It almost felt like he was trying to roleplay in a very specific way, like those cheesy moments in anime when a character went off and another character chased after them. And then they would have this big confession of feelings or something. But whenever a character did go after him, David just says that he follows them or doesn't really interact with them. And the little interactions he does do on his own aren't like he has main character syndrome. He does mundane things that don't require a lot of detail. It's hard to figure him out. And when he has been questioned about it, he doesn't really give a lot of answers other than it's what his character would do, because they're the loner type. I've met 4 of his characters so far, and they all do the exact same thing. One of them he had switched out because everyone disliked the loner attitude of this random person we just met constantly wandering off, and he brought in a new character, only for that character to wander off and seem uninterested in whatever the party was doing, but never voicing it. The only main difference was this character was less moody than the last, and didn't wander off as far, but always made a habit to never explore areas. This character would always stand outside and just wait for us to return. It wasn't as if they were keeping watch. A lot of times he would just inspect random objects, or when the DM asked what he wanted to do, he would say that his character was just waiting on us. Sometimes, often making comments about how his character viewed us going into dangerous places as stupid or pointless, even if the place wasn't dangerous. If this character was being played as a coward, then I would understand. But this was never explained or broadened beyond insults, and it was never said in character, always out of it. And when we do finally say enough and break character to ask him what he wants to do, he shrugs it off and says that he doesn't have anything planned. We can keep going. He's just milling about due to not having an opinion or any attachments that make him interested in our goals. And then 5 minutes later, we'll then tell the DM that he's going to go outside or go into town to check out the shops. We ask him what we can do to make him more involved, but he tells us his characters wouldn't have any reason to be interested in what we were doing, or that his character doesn't trust us enough to really get involved. We've tried pulling his character into role-playing scenes, and he'll usually give a single answer, or say that his character is blatantly ignoring us and they, once again, decide to wander off. It's tiring, and I'm at my wit's end because I have no idea what to do. None of our players do, or the DM. Any attempts to involve him in or out of character have been met with boredom or rejection. We ask him if he's having fun, and he talks about D&D as if it's the highlight of his week. At this point, I'm confused, and can't tell if he's a problem player, or if maybe he just doesn't fit in with our group styles. However, we do have a group of people with widely different styles. We have the role players, the power gamers, the battle lovers, the meme builders, and we all manage to respect and play with each other very well. Right, so, as I'm not interacting with this person, I can't say exactly what's going on here. And throughout reading the story, I've thought of numerous things. I was thinking maybe he's depressed or passive and wanted to feel wanted, or antisocial, or maybe anxiety problems in social situations, or maybe he's on the spectrum, or just simply he wants to hang out with his friends and this is one of the few times where he can do it. And according to the OP in the comments, David is quite talkative and amiable outside of D&D. So with that said, I sincerely don't know what his problem is. I was thinking that maybe he just watches far too much anime, as this seemed to be him leaning into a trope, just for that to end up in a whole lot of nothing. My best guess is he's just a weirdly specific spotlight hog, but I honestly don't know. But the party definitely needs to put their foot down and stop being gentle about it. Give him an ultimatum. Either make a character, or play the character in a way that meshes with the party. I don't know how many times he's done this crap, but from what I gather here, it's been far too much. Especially if he's made 4 characters where it's basically the same exact thing every single time. He's not changing or learning here. I generally believe in second chances, but this is getting a little silly here. But let me know what you guys think this guy's problem is, because I'm at a loss. But that's it for this one, so as always, have a good one.